So we have a whole new setup for this year. As one of our main differences is that all kids are testing. Okay, so last year it was just math, SCE, and then ELAR. All kids across the board, 6 through 8, are testing for ELAR and math. Okay, so what is math? So math measures growth with an adaptive test that is given 3 times a year. We'll have the beginning of the year, okay, right out the gate. We'll have in the middle of the year, and then we'll have at the end of the year to assess growth over time. Okay, so our number one reasoning for this is so all stakeholders, that's parents, teachers, students, can assess the student's performance over time. Okay, so this is a nationally award reference assessment. It is one data point with combined multiple data that helps educators inform instructions and differentiate within the classroom. I know ELAR has already used MAP for a while, so throughout the year, my go-to person will be Ms. Delgado for all things, okay? She's been assessing for a few years now, and I know last year she came up and she was so excited because she said, you know what, I got data on every single student. And so that's really our goal here, is to see that growth over time for every student here. So all students that take STAR will be taking MAP unless in their IAP or IEP says otherwise. Okay, so that includes some of our ALE students. Okay, so every student that takes STAR will be assessed in MAP. So MAP growth again is a norm-based assessment. It is not STAR. Okay, while we may deliver our tests to our students and not in a classroom setting, no electronic devices, that is same setup as STAR. The test itself is not a test like STAR. Let's go ahead and look at this a little bit. No sound.
About math testing. Now, you have math tests coming up, and we're very excited to see how you are going to improve on this math test. But there's still been some confusion about the math test and what it's actually for and what we expect out of you, middle schoolers. First of all, the math test builds a unique test for each and every one of you. The test is different than the test that the person sitting next to you is taking. They're all completely different because you are completely different than everyone else. So students are not expected to know the answer to every question. In fact, the test changes depending on if you answer questions correct or if you answer some questions incorrect. The difficulty of the tests will adjust based on how you are performing on the questions. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But the most important thing on all of your math tests is improvement. We are looking for progress, not for you to do perfect on your test, because no one is expected to do that. But we need to see improvement from the last test. We want to see you progressing. So if you look here at the chart, you can see an example of a student's test. So the first question, they got that question correct. Great job. As you can see, the difficulty of the question then gets a little bit higher. They then get the second question correct. It gets higher again. The third question, they get wrong. So instead of going higher, giving the test giving the student a more challenging question again, it goes down a little bit in difficulty. The student gets that one wrong, it goes down again, wrong again, and it goes down again. Eventually the student gets one right, and as you can see, the level of the question goes up. It continues doing this throughout the entire test. Now, how long is your test? There's not an exact number here, but most students finish under 1 hour, whether it's reading or math or any other math test. The test is designed to figure out about where you are at. Are you at grade level with your peers, so the average of all other students in your grade level, or are you a little bit below and you need to improve? And also wants to know if you're exceeding above grade level. So as you can see, chart, it's green, 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 and it's not switching around quite as much because it's kind of honed in on what level you are at. By the end of the test, it has plenty of data to know exactly what about where you're at as far as your rates, and also how much you've improved from the last time you took the math test. If this is your first time taking the math test, do your best because this will be what information the math test uses for your future tests to compare to. Remember, math growth begins with a question at each student's grade level, and it adjusts the difficulty of the question based on the individual performance of that person. So, in conclusion, the most important thing for you to do on your math test is to do your best. That's all we ask, that's all we expect. So good luck on your math test, students. You're going to do awesome.
Okay, so again, like you saw in the video, the math test screener is adaptive. Okay, so that means that every single 6th through 8th grade student will be testing under the same test universal setup. So every single student will click 6th through 8th math assessment, and it goes based off of the student's understanding. Okay, so it grows and it adjusts to their knowledge and understanding. It is supposed to provide us with their strengths and needs for each individual class. Again, all eligible students 6 through 8 will take this, which means every single person in here will proctor. Right? It is different than last year, as last year it was solely focused on our ELA department. This year, with again all students testing, all teachers will proctor. You kind of heard a little bit about it when we first got back about TIA, the Texas or the Teachers Incentive Allotment. Will be based primarily off of math scores. Okay, so with that being said, every single teacher in here who is proctoring will not proctor your own grade level. Okay, you will not have your own students. It is against violation for TIA. So it's going to be imperative when Mr. Castillo and I with logistics, we go over anything, and you're going to see, unfortunately, a bunch of emails. You're going to see first round of emails. There's initial rosters. Please look over. Come to us with any adjustments. If you see one of your students on your roster, you need to tell us immediately. I'll send out another email, like 3 days later, saying, please review. Ensure that there is no student sitting on your roster that you teach. I'll send out one final last day to make changes because you will be disqualified from TIA if you assess one of your students. It is imperative that you look at those rosters. When will we be giving them? Again, we have a fall, winter, and a spring. I know it's fast and furious, but our first test will be math, and it will be given on August 28th. August 28th will be our first math assessment. Makeups will be on the 29th and the 30th. Okay? Following that, the following week will be ELAR. Okay, we'll come around again for our winter mid-year in January, and then we'll have a spring towards the end of the year. Okay, if you calculate that, that's a lot of testing, right, for kids. Okay, so each of these tests will be administered for 3 hours. They'll have a maximum amount of 3 hours. We'll talk about logistics here in a little bit, what that'll look like, but we'll run it pretty much how we run a math star day. Okay, shutting down the campus entirely, and a lot of the logistics are very similar to what our math looks like. How we do our lunches, things like that, which we'll go over in a little bit. These slides will be available to you. We're going to send them out, so these dates you'll get again. that basically taught SE classes 6th, 7th, and 8th that we had to find adjustments because to try to manipulate that our first round was going to be a little difficult. But other than that, everybody is testing or administrating another grade level. For STAR, I'll call our people in the hallway monitors, same thing for math. STAR language for our features and supports. Accessibility is STAR, whereas math are universal. STAR, we have designated supports. Math is designated features or accommodations. Accommodations are going to run very similar as to STAR. Okay, so just like STAR, you'll have a checkout. Mr. Castillo or our hall, designated hall people will give you your accommodations, list of all your students. You'll have all of that information just like STAR. Everything that is under our universal features is embedded to the test. One major difference for math is STAR math, 8th grade, every student gets a calculator embedded on every single question. For math test, calculators are only embedded when needed. I know, so yes, you heard that right. So not every question is allotted a calculator, only I guess when the test deems it's necessary to complete the objective. So the only students who will receive a calculator throughout the entire test is if the student has an IEP or an IAP that states so. Other than that, the calculator is embedded per question when needed. So again, not every single student will receive a calculator for every single question. Only those that have it stated in their IAP or IEP. So if you don't get a bundle of calculators, but you notice your neighbor does, it's only because they have students that need those supports. So we do have a clickable Proctor guide. Everything is electronic. It's really long bundle. We will print you what you need. So on the day that you test, you'll get your readout. You'll get information from that you need. Okay? If you want to, just for joy, you may read it at any time. Oh, I don't need that yet. Okay, so it's going to be imperative, which you'll get more instructions on for when students log in for them to be given, take the right test. Okay, so when students log in, they'll have to find their name and then a drop down of their test, the test that I've assigned to them. Okay, so it's going to be imperative that they just take the 6+ math test. Again, every single student takes that 6+ test. It's not 8th grade is different, 6th grade is different. Everybody just clicks the 6+ test. Okay? Same thing for reading 6+. I will be creating everybody's test sessions and passwords. Okay? So it'll be universal across the entire campus. 6th grade will not have their own, 7th grade will, every single student will take the same one. So it'll be most likely Vail, Carmichael. And then every passcode will be generated differently. Okay? That'll all be given the day of the test, just like at STAR when I give you your session IDs and stuff like that. Okay? We're not going to just yet. I will make sure that everybody has their account at the end. That's what we brought our focus for. I want to make sure everybody can log in and set up your accounts before we get started. ELA should already have everything set up. Math SEs should already have everything set up. Reading SE should already have everything set up. So, when a student arrives, after you log into your account console, it'll tell you that you will go to the little top of the screen that says test. Now, again, students will put in their session, they'll put in the session ID, which will be Vail, and then Carmichael, and then you'll have your session ID. They then will click it. And let me show you what this looks like inside the system. Oh, not that. whole new setup for the district, okay? So Mr. Castillo and I will do our best to always help guide everybody through, but just like y'all, this is new for us too. So I will help. Ms. Delgado has told me that she'll help me. So when students enter, you'll have a screen that looks similar to this. Every student will pop up with their name, and all you have to do is press confirm. So when the student enters, you just confirm your 25 students, okay? Let's see. My videos are not working. So I have a video that I'll try to send out at a separate time that shows how to pause or suspend a test. So when you're watching your classroom or you're proctoring your classroom, you're going to monitor like normal for STAR. But if you notice students are kind of just sitting idle, like they're just sitting there staring or have their head down, you will have to go back to your screen and you're going to have to click resume or to let a student back in, which there's a video for that, but I don't think it's working either. The other was not working. So, students are able to pause or suspend test, okay? So if a student pauses a test, they pause it up to 25 minutes. That's typically for bathroom. Depending on the nurse situation, if it's a student that says they need to go to the nurse for a headache or a personal reason, that could be just a pause, okay? To suspend, if a student throws up in your classroom and they're obviously going home, that's you're gonna suspend the test. Okay, they'll continue it with me if they come back within the next 2 days. If they don't come back in the next 2 days, we're not going to continue trying to test over and over. Okay, we're just going to have the extra 2 days and that's it. You'll never, ever, 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 ever terminate a test. Ever. Ever. Okay, so you will always see in anything that we ever give out, that it'll be in bright red writing, do not terminate a test. Okay? When students end, it'll have on your screen students completed the test. Just like STAR, when they complete the test, you'll close the screen, and they will remain in the room until the entire classroom is complete and the campus goes back into the regular day. We do have some proctor sheets that will print out specific to any of these. So if a student's missing, what do you do? If the screen resolution, what do you do? We'll have some printouts that are a quick, easy guide to what happens if this, okay? So our engagement and rapid guessing is also a little different. So if you notice a student is just clicking, it'll pop up on your screen console and it'll tell you, which I'll have directions sent out, that it means that the student has answered well below the average response time, and it'll kick the student out automatically. So then the student will have to recompose themselves, and then you'll have to let them back in. Most likely, the student, if they're 7th and 8th grade, they'll raise their hand and they'll say, I got kicked out because I was rapid guessing. They already know that. The only people that will not know that are 6th graders. They should, because they've already taken math already. So they'll raise their hand and say rapid guessing, and you can go to the console and you have to click the button to let them back into the test because of the rapid guessing. Again, I will print out directions with pictures for that. This is what it looks like. So if a student is rapid guessing, we get a box to the right and it'll say one pause. That will have a drop down. It may be more than one student at a time. So it'll have a list of who they are, and you have to click resume, or you can click the little boxes at the top. It'll highlight everybody who's in there, and you just resume back in. So the most important thing for us, especially since it's based off of TIA, is giving this assessment with fidelity. Okay, so with that, administrative map must be administered to ensure that high quality data and support for student growth, reliability of results, right? Because that's not only going to help our students succeed here on campus, that's also based off of your TIA. And ensure fairness to all participants regardless of the test site. So what's important is that anybody going to any Northside campus should have the same expectations when it comes to math. Just like STAR, we're securing all cell phones, personal devices. We ensure classroom walls do not have any materials. So I know how hard that is, especially coming in at the beginning of the year, okay? Anything with math or ELA material, it needs to be covered, okay, at each test.
For those teachers that are new, what does that mean, secure cell phones and personal devices?
Good question. So for secure cell phones and personal devices, so at checkout of all material, I will have a roster with each student's names. You'll go down the list and you will collect a cell phone or a smartwatch from each student on that list. So pretty much everybody in the classroom. I personally have students sign on there that they gave me their device because if they're taught with those devices, it creates invalidness of the test, okay? So if the student tells me I don't have a device, then I will have put on there, student does not have a device. So if they get caught with the device later and a disciplinary issue arises, the student on their documentation with any of the parent, those conversations, told me they didn't have a device. Classroom walls, when we take any type of standardized test, any assessments at large capacities, anything with content has to be covered. So if I'm a math teacher, any math vocabulary, any pictures, if it's not encouragement, so it's like kindness, matters. Anything like that can stay on. But if it has anything to do with content, it has to be covered. Mr. Castillo and I will send out more information on when those rooms have to be done by. So we haven't really had those conversations yet, but we will have to have this covered. Today, in just a minute, everybody will get an oath, just like for STAR, stating that you had this training and that you agreed to the terms of all. This is really important because this is, again, going to be attached to your TIA. So if you don't agree to any of those terms, then I guess you can see Mr. Castillo. It's not me. It's not me. It's So I am including some videos of work at the end that you can always go back and look. You guys will never, at least not now, set up any of your tests. It'll always be me or Mr. Castillo. So any videos regarding how to set up a Proctor test that does not apply to you, okay? But while Mr. Castillo is passing out those oaths, if everybody can log in, I want to go ahead and make sure that we have access to these. So you will go by starting on your portal. Go to your Northside portal. Okay, so we had a good question. Ms. Sanchez asked, can we expect to have the same teachers for your beginning, middle, and end? Yes. Ideally, that is Mr. Castillo and I's goal, is to ensure that you have the same group of students, right? I don't foresee any teachers changing teaching assignments mid-year. If you have new students come in, yes, absolutely. But again, that's why we send out the rosters plenty of time. Hey, just make sure that your rosters haven't changed since the fall or the spring. But yes. She also had a question, since they aren't for students, how do we handle disciplinary? If there's any disciplinary concerns, you will follow them the same as we would with STAR. Okay, so just like STAR, you'll have an admin in each hall, and you will flag for an admin support. It'll be handled just the same. Yes. Yes. Yes, I'll always be able to do that. That's another good question. Since this technically is not STAR, once the student is done, if they want to read or draw, they can draw as well, whereas STAR is just strictly like reading. But they can read or draw or color. That's fine. If you're providing those materials, we will not be printing out Mickey Mouse sheets. Okay, so when you get to your portal, you should have a little icon that looks like that. It says NWEA Map. You might have to search for it depending on where things are in your portal. So Ms. Hernandez said she got like 10 emails and deleted them all from NWEA asking about credentials. So if you got one of those emails,
Let's make sure microphone is
okay, so Ms. Hernandez's tip is you can press forgot password and it'll send you a new link. So it was not spam. No, it was not. Well, the district signed everybody up. Because it's, yes. You don't have to. Okay, so Ms. Delgado, Ms. Christmas, Mr. Castillo and I will walk around and help if you need it. I need everybody to make sure that you can log in, and if not, please let us know. The only people that should not be trying are the SE teachers and ESP. ELA teachers that were here last year.
If you're trying to search for it, you search that. Don't search the NWEA. It'll stop that.